This channel is all about Marvel, DC Comics, and Star Wars, and in this video I'm going to review a statue based on a lesser known member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So let's get started. Many heroes in the Marvel Universe have a rich history, but only the character of Angela has unique origins that include Spawn, Thor, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Hello, I'm Gina, and the statue next to me is based on that very character. This, of course, is the new Angela premium format statue by Sideshow Collectibles. Now, let me begin by saying that I'm extremely pleased at how this statue came out. You know, it's very close to what was promised to us in the prototype, and I think that the execution is spot on. Now, with that being said, there are a few features that I would like to have seen tweaked. Now, I promise I'm going to cover it all in this video, and as always, I'm going to begin with some background information. So this statue comes with an assortment of weapons, which gives rise to many different display options. And here you can see I have her displayed with her sword and battle spear. And this by far is my favorite setup of the Angela statue. Now, at first glance, you can see that she's hoisting her spear above her body. Her torso is flexed, her muscles are tense, and the statue is capturing that precise moment in time when Angela is just about to strike. And you really can't get any more dynamic than this. Now, with this being a premium format statue, it's of course quarter scale, and it's constructed of mixed media elements. And you notice how the color palette is surprisingly simple. But in contradiction to this simple color palette, we're given a host of swap out accessories and weapons with this Angela statue. Now, very soon in this video, I'm going to narrow in on her outfit and weapons with a lot more detail. But before I do, I think it's important to explore the inspiration behind this vibrant statue. Judging purely by her cover art, one might assume that Angela is a Nordic warrior, but she was actually created as an angel, and she first appeared in Spawn issue number 9 for Image Comics. Now, she was intended to clash with Spawn, but the real clash would actually end up occurring between Angela's co-creators, Todd McFarlane and Neil Gaiman. And after Neil Gaiman was victorious, Angela was then sold to Marvel Comics. Now, at her new home at Marvel, Angela would quickly be introduced to the Guardians of the Galaxy. And in subsequent issues, it would be revealed that Angela is the long-lost daughter of Odin. So if you look back at Angela's early appearance in Image Comics, you can quickly tell that this statue is a much more toned-down interpretation of the character. You can see here that she's sporting a much more modest costume, and for me that's okay because it's the statue's visceral action pose that really captures the spirit of Angela. Now, if you've watched my videos in the past, you know that I like to review statues from head to toe. So coming up next, I'm going to focus at the very top of the statue, the portrait. Now, the portrait on the Angela premium format statue can probably be best described as stoic, which is in stark contrast to this action pose. Now, as she's hurling this massive spear through the air, you know, she's not yelling or screaming. Instead, she has a very calm expression, which kind of tells us that she's in full control of these weapons and she has no fear whatsoever of the enemy that's standing before her. Now, one of the striking attributes of Angela's portrait are her facial tattoos, and I think that their auburn color really helps to enhance her eyes. Now, I have to mention that I have high expectations for the hair on Sideshow's female statues, and when I unboxed this statue, I was not let down. In my opinion, the flow of the hair falls in perfectly with the action pose. Now, let's shift upwards to the headdress. Now, there's a fair amount of engravings added to the crown, which can also be found on the wings as well. Okay, so when you bring together the tattoos and the headgear, I think that they provide just enough coverage of the face that one would expect from Angela the warrior. And even though the portrait has a comic book vibe, I think that there's still enough realism to how the hair flows back and interweaves through the headgear. Now, the headgear is actually a great companion piece to Angela's body armor, and in the next section, I'm going to give you a closer look at how the two link together. So the bronze-colored headdress really sets the stage, so to speak, for Angela's entire outfit. Here you can see that the bronze is carried over to her breastplate, her left shielded arm, and her greaves. And, I'm also really impressed with the aqua blue garment here. It really gives a strong punch of color to the entire statue. Now, of course, all of these sculpted elements are augmented really nicely with the fabric belt and the cloth skirt. So let's take a closer look at the breastplate. In my opinion, I think that the etchings on Angela's breastplate does an adequate job of decorating this central piece of armor. Now, with that being said, there is considerably more detail on the left arm. Now, I love the defensive spikes on the shoulder, which is really cool, but my favorite touch are the battle marks. They provide you with a window into her past battles. Okay, so beneath the bronze armor is the blue undergarment, and I've already mentioned how it gives the statue a boost of color. But it's also important to point out that this undergarment has a quilted pattern, which is beautifully textured. So let's move to the waistline. One of the first elements to really grab my attention was the fabric belt. It has this great look of leather, and the white stitching and knots are really impressive. Now, beneath the belt is the cloth skirt, and it has a malleable underwire, so I've shaped it to my own preference. Okay, so the final component to Angela's outfit is, of course, Angela's famous ribbon. And, on this statue, Sideshow has given us an angelic ribbon that is made of fabric and that can be easily molded around her upper body. And here it certainly feels alive and part of her arsenal. Now, of course, the ribbon is just part of many weapons on this statue. And, there's a lot I love about the weapons on this statue, but there's also a few things I would have liked to have seen changed. And I'm going to discuss that all in more detail coming up next. Okay, so the statue comes loaded with 3 prominent weapons, and I swapped out the weapons so Angela is now holding her battle axe. And the first thing I want to point out is that you'll notice how the axe is not coming down vertically straight like a cleaver. Instead, Angela is wielding it at a 45-degree angle, and this horizontal motion gives the statue a sense of energy or a surge of energy. And I love that because it fits with Angela's ferocity. Now, the blade of the axe is produced really well. It's heavy and it feels like it might be incorporated with some metal. I love its shape and lavish design. However, I'm less impressed with the hilt of the axe, but I just find that the wood appearance is just not up to the same standards that I've seen on weapons from other Sideshow pieces. Okay, so moving to the left arm where Angela is grasping the sword. Now, I do prefer to have the statue displayed with this sword. On the surface, it looks pretty good, but unfortunately, the sword is feather light. It really should have been heavier and a lot more solid. Now, while Sideshow may have held back on the sword, it seems that most of their design effort was directed towards the battle spear or lance. Now, everything on this weapon is top quality. The blades are solid and perfectly constructed in my opinion. This battle spear is without a doubt my favorite weapon on the Angela premium format statue. Okay, so now I have the spear displayed with its proper companion piece, the left guiding hand. And, I'm happy that Sideshow provided us with this alternative display option. But, for me personally, I don't think it provides much benefit to the statue. I much rather have Angela displayed with the weapon in both hands because, of course, on any statue, 2 weapons are better than 1. Okay, so by now I think I've covered all the main components on top, and now it's time to give you a closer look at the base. The statues in Sideshow's Guardians of the Galaxy line, of course, all share a similar base design. They're all standing on a planetary rock with shards of crystal protruding through. But on the Angela statue, her base is a bit taller than the others, and on the production piece that I received, I had absolutely no quality control issues, and it was executed really, really well. Now, the surface of this base has a dark sheen or gloss that kind of resembles volcanic rock. And here you can see the beautiful horizontal striations along its side. Now on the top of the base are even wider crevices where the stream of blue is penetrating through. Now, even before I received this statue, I was curious as to how well the crystals would turn out. And now, seeing them in person, I'm really happy with the sapphire transparent color. And I find that there's just enough crystals to make a statement, but yet not overpower the base. So to sum up my final impressions of this Angela statue, I think this piece does a great job of incorporating sculpted armor with beautifully tailored fabric, and all of this is put together in a dynamic action pose. Now, the battle spear that's shown here is given with the exclusive version, and in my opinion, I think it's a definite must. It does a great job of elevating the statue to a whole other level, and that's exactly what an exclusive swap-out piece is supposed to do. Okay, so this brings me to my top 3 characteristics of this statue, and these are characteristics that really drew me to this piece. And number 3 on my list is very subtle, but also very important. It's the angelic ribbon. It's a great visual statement, and I love that there are so many options as to how you can pose it. Okay, so my second favorite feature of this piece is the fabric belt. The white lace stitching and loop knots turned out so much better than I expected. And finally, my number 1 favorite feature of the Angela premium format statue is this pose of Angela hurling the spear, and it's one of the best exclusive accessories Sideshow has put forth in a long time. Okay, as always, full disclaimer, these are my own personal opinions on this statue. These are my own views. But if you're interested in this piece, do your homework and check out what other collectors have to say about the Angela premium format statue. And on that note, I want to thank you for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Take care.